Hi, Grace Church. It's Keith, and I get to be the Connections pastor here, and I am excited to introduce a new season of discipleship at Grace Church. And it's a season where we're really focusing on building up leaders through a small group model. And why are we doing this? It's because with a church of our size, we will need over 100 strong, pastorally hearted leaders in order to walk with everybody who calls a Grace Church home. So I want to go through a little bit of what small groups are going to be like and how they're going to function in the upcoming season. The first thing is leadership. Now, we like leadership. Each group should have a designated person that says, I got this. And that person not only should be under the authority of Grace Church pastors, but also supported by the church in various ways, which we'll come back to. So second piece is commitment. And we really hope that each person who's considering a small group would take time to get to know the people in your small group before committing time to them. It could be a camping trip or going through Rooted together. Especially our family life ministries are a great place to do that. We have things like Women of the Word, where you can sign up for join a table for 3 months or so, go through a study, and if you really click with those people, you say, hey, why don't we commit to going through the next season of life together? So as you go through the next season of life, something we really want to do is have a start date and an end date, and it looks something like this. Hey, we should start on next Tuesday. You got it. End date looks like, why don't we commit to meeting weekly or bi-weekly with each other all the way from now until next fall? At that point, we're going to reevaluate. And as that group comes to a close, the goal is to empower more leaders, not just get the best group of friends you can forever and walk with them for 20 years. The idea is that small groups become a place where we raise up future generations of leaders at Grace Church, future Rooted facilitators, future table facilitators, these people who are going to depend on to be the backbone of the church. There should be a set number in your group. The leader of the group should know who they're contacting when the next thing happens, not maybe somebody's in, maybe somebody out. It's fine to invite somebody to join your group, but when they join, they're then a part of your group. And finally, the last thing that we're going to go through is how Grace is supporting the small group leaders. And there's a lot of resources we really want to put in your guys' lap to help you flourish. And the first one is a small group coach. A small group coach is a seasoned staff or pastoral presence who comes alongside the small group leader and walks with them relationally through the ups and downs and the nitty-gritty of life. They're also somebody who's going to meet with you monthly, and the ask is for you to commit to every month, one time, connecting with them about training to our values. How's it going bringing people out with authentic conversations? How are you doing focusing on Jesus? And just coaching you along in that way. The next is money. Specifically for childcare, we would like to offer $50 every month for your group to get childcare. So any of you group with young families, sometimes that can be a major barrier to getting space together. So at least once a month, we want to reimburse you $50 if you can get a babysitter in there to take the kids in the other room to go memorize the Torah or watch Wild Kratts or whatever you're going to do. Finally, some best practices. There's 3 ways that we have broken out on the website with descriptions that I want to touch on. People say, well, what are we doing in the group? Do we follow the sermon? Do we just read a book? And there's different ways to do it, but here's 3 good ways that you can refer to the website to for it. The first one is what we just call Follow the Sermon series. We have an incredible pastor who spends hours every week studying Scripture and applying it to our times and our lives. And so what we want you to do is to learn to engage in the sermon, take notes, and bring that and apply it to your small group, to discussion with your family, your friends, the people you walk with, and to not have pre-fed questions going to you, but to learn to really engage in Scripture and preaching and grow in it yourself. So there's a list of best practice questions that you can take to do that. The next one is what we call timeless questions, and there's a list of a dozen questions or so on the website, but the idea is some of the best environments you'll ever be in, or when you walk in and there's not a book study or hey, did you watch the sermon, but just how's your heart with God? How's your family? How's your mom doing? And those questions where we take time to learn and sit and be present with one another and engage in real, genuine hospitality. And the final one is a book study. And we have a resource page online that has a list of 25 books and book studies that staff have recommended. But there's a bestseller that we would encourage everybody to get this year. There's a new edition that comes out just about every year, so go ahead and pick up a new one. And it is the Bible, specifically the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. we ask you, feel free, go read a book that's suggested by staff, but always come back to Scripture. Always be in the Word, always reading it together and processing what it's doing in your heart. So finally, as we go in small groups, you'll know if you're doing a good job, if you're following the values and the rhythms of Jesus. There's lots of ways that our church has engaged in that, from the Rooted Bible study to things that we have online, which is really always coming back to the basics of what our church is about. There's plenty of support with our coaches and online resources for that, but ask that you gauge your success by, are you really sticking true to the deep Christian values of pursuing Jesus and gospel transformation in your lives? So finally, the pastors at Grace Church are sincerely committed to helping you walk out a credible, authentic life with God and in community. And we ask that you jump in with us in this upcoming discipleship season. Thank you, Grace Church.